Hey guys, it's February the 27th, and today I thought it'd be fun to go just do my normal commute into the city, and we'll see how OpenPilot does. I'm going to start it right here. This is just right outside my house, a stoplight. So I haven't engaged OpenPilot yet, but let's go ahead and turn it on, and then just hit set. So now OpenPilot is engaged. I'm just going to up the speed, and here I'm just going into a turn lane. And there's some cars stopped ahead, but we're actually going to help it over here. And it's doing all the braking, stopping behind this lead car. So basically, OpenPilot currently is in 0.7.3. It has lane change assist, but it's only over 45 miles per hour, so it's really only designed for highways. So the way OpenPilot works, if you don't know, is that it disengages on the gas or the brake or the cancel button here, but not on the steering. So I can always assist it with steering. So for this particular drive, I'm going to say at any place that I actually influence the steering, we'll call that a disengagement. When you do the lane change assist, it's kind of similar to Tesla's, where Tesla asks you to put your hand on the wheel. All this asks you to do is put your hand on the wheel and give just the slightest input in the direction of the lane change. So it doesn't just need to see a hand on the wheel, because this wheel doesn't sense hands, it only senses input. It just needs to see a tiny bit of input. So this is a really tight turn. Let's see if OpenPilot will actually do this. Pretty good, pretty slow. Close to the guardrail there, but I kind of influenced it just a little bit, but it's not designed to do that yet, so we'll call that a disengagement. I just wanted to see if it would do it, because if you don't know, OpenPilot is only using the device in the windshield here. It only has one camera. So right now I've got people cutting in, but OpenPilot sees that vehicle already, and so it's backing off. So I'm going to go ahead and increase my speed to 70, and we're going to take an exit here and start heading downtown. So yeah, in that turn back there, OpenPilot isn't really designed to do tight turns like that. It tries its best, but it couldn't even see the lane line on the inside, so it's kind of blind to that right now with the current limitations of the driving model, because it's still in early development. But it does a pretty good job. It tries its best to assume where the path goes, even if it can't see the line specifically, so it did a pretty good job there. So yeah, here, I was already in the exit lane, so it just takes the exit just fine. OpenPilot has a auto slowdown that is based on the model. It's not based on GPS maps or anything. It has GPS, but it doesn't use it for the actual driving task. It's using that to record, the data, the locations of where it's driving, not to find out where it's driving. So here I'm going to use the lane change assist. I'm just going to nudge the wheel slightly. I make sure the lane's clear, and you see it goes ahead and turns. So it actually helps me, because I can kind of spend a little bit more time checking my mirrors, checking my blind spots, and I just have to give a little tug on the wheel to let it know to go ahead and move over. And I don't have to really worry about getting my car perfectly in the lane. I can just make sure, there's no one going to, crash into me, or I'm not going to get in anybody's way. So I do like the lane change assist feature more than I thought I would when they initially released it. So here I'll just do it again. Very slight input on the wheel. It's basically the same as like doing the little hand touch with the Teslas, and it does the rest of the work for you. I know it's relatively new and they're still working on it, and I've heard they're going to totally redo it and try to make it better. So I'm interested to see what the improvements are in the future builds. So alright, we're on the interstate. I haven't technically disengaged OpenPilot since the start, basically. I've given one steer input just to make a 90-degree turn, which normally you would do Really I would have been disengaged there, and just as soon as I made that turn, I would have engaged it to go onto the interstate. So OpenPilot uses no navigation. It doesn't have like a navigate on autopilot feature yet. The big limitation there is just using one camera. It can't change lanes without me ensuring that the lanes are clear. But I could see in the future if they added some type of navigation where they're pulling map data to kind of either have it alert the driver, like, hey, this lane, this is your exit, or possibly allowing it to be able to, take exits when it sees them and matches them with the map data. So that would be cool to be a future feature, but it's not a priority right now. Right now we're still trying to make the driving model really good. And as far as the acceleration and deceleration, right now it uses the model for vision for the lead car tracking, but it does, I'm going to go up just a little bit in speed, but it has a fixed following distance right now. It has a slowdown feature that's based on the model, so when it sees a turn it will automatically reduce gas, but it doesn't do it in really a sophisticated way. It's just very basic. Like, it sees a turn, it lets off the gas. That's about all it does. It doesn't brake. It doesn't really, have a dynamic speed change there. It's just kind of a standard speed change to try to help it make it through turns a little bit. So if you saw here that I got a little bit of a warning for driver monitoring. So we can talk about driver monitoring for a little bit. Basically, there's a selfie camera here. There's IR LEDs here. They are looking at me the whole time and making sure that not only is my head forward, but it's tracking my eyes as well, so it can see my eye position. So for example, if I'd had a phone here and I was looking down, you only get about to there. I can see it's already alerting. See, it's telling me, hey, look back up. So even if you're looking here, see, it sees my eyes and my head position. So it's actually seeing me drop my head down and my eyes down at the same time, and it's giving me a warning to pay attention and look at the road. So now I know it's a little bit conditional. So if it can see that the path ahead there's no cars, it's straight, it's a little bit more forgiving in certain situations. I'm assuming they're going to make that better. The whole idea is that the driver monitoring model will be contextual. It'll look at the speed, it will look at the vision of the output of the road ahead, look at how many cars are in the scene, and the idea is to kind of use all that information to base its aggressiveness on monitoring your attention. So like if you're on the interstate cruising, low traffic, it'll be more forgiving than if you're in a really heavy traffic situation with cars all around. It's going to alert you a lot quicker to be paying attention. And you can see here, I can look to this mirror, I can look out this window, and it's not really alerting. It will after a while of my head being off position. But see there, but it gives you quite a few seconds to look around. Like I can look at the infotainment for a while, long enough to change all this stuff. You see it hasn't alerted while I'm looking at this. So for me personally, it's pretty fair. I mean, sometimes it nags me more than I want it to, but it's not wrong when it's nagging me. I am either distracted or I'm looking away for too long, and it's there not to totally beat you, to make sure that you're always paying attention, but it's there to be a very clear communication to you that you need to pay attention. A wheel touch every 30 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever, is not always clear that you always need to be paying attention. It's telling you, hey, you just need to be paying attention when I ask you, not, continuously. This, since it is continuously monitoring, it can continuously tell you in all the situations where it thinks you're not paying attention, that you need to, keep your eyes on the road. So, driver monitoring is a good system for or advanced level 2 where I don't have to do a wheel touch. So as long as I'm facing in this general direction where I have visual, visual confirmation of my surroundings, and I'm looking forward and I'm, watching the scene ahead of me, it's not going to say a thing. It's just going to sit there and help, assist in driving the car. So I really like the driver monitoring. I think it's the right move. It does its job, and if it is too intrusive, we can report those bugs to the developers, and they'll look at it. You can opt into giving them your driver monitoring data. I do, which might be why I think it works so well for me, because I don't care if they have video of me. I mean, it's not very valuable. I don't know what they could do with it to make money. It's just me sitting here, probably doing, looking pretty embarrassing maybe sometimes while I drive with my mouth hanging open or something like that. But otherwise, I don't care about uploading the data. It helps improve the driving model, and it works really well for me. So I think that, I've gotten enough value out of giving them that data that, it's a fair trade-off. So yeah, here we're in congestion. This is kind of typical at this hour. It's 8 o'clock. Normally I go into the city a lot earlier for the day job, and I avoid all this traffic. But it's pitch black dark, so recording it not as easy to do. So yeah, you saw how the driver monitoring worked. I can also point out that if I'm distracted, so let's try to get distracted here, I can touch the steering wheel and it will reset. So if it's like, it will take any kind of driver input. It'll take the steering wheel, it'll take a speed change. So some people opt on, if they have their hand on the wheel, I can reset it by just doing a wheel nudge rather than looking forward. Or you can do both, So it has that option as well. But right now, driver monitoring, you cannot disable it. It's not optional. It's mandatory on OpenPilot, especially if the Comma 2, since it can see day and night. It works pretty well at night. They're improving that a lot too. So, you can stay hands off at night, for hours, as long as, you're looking forward. Which is really, one of the big improvements with the Comma 2 over the old Eon, is giving you that capability. And they can, increase the wheel touches on possibly once, because you could still technically just cover up the camera, and it's just going to default right now to wheel nag. So if I cover this up and it can't see me anymore, it's not freaking out. It's just going to start asking me to touch the wheel occasionally, which, is fine. It's a good fallback right now, but I think their eventual goal is to just be 100% driver monitoring, which it works. And like I said, it's open source code, so if you don't opt into uploading that data, you can look at the code, you can look at the device, you can see that data is not being taken, that there's no audio being taken. It's a nice thing about open source in a time where everyone is concerned about security. You can look at the code, you can see for yourself, that there's nothing happening in the background that you didn't approve of or you didn't know about. It's clear right there in black and white. So another great thing about open source software, that it actually can help with your privacy rather than be a negative, as some people might assume that open source is vulnerable in some way. Well, it's not, because everyone knows exactly how it works. There's no way for someone to hide something in there that's uploading your driving data, because you can look at the code and see it. Everyone can. So anyway, so this is going really well. not much to talk about as far as the driving performance. This is kind of how it is. I mean, it's pretty rare now to have any concerning issues, at least for me in my experience. I would say that my drive is pretty softball, hit for OpenPilot. It's not that complicated, but I'm going to continue it all the way. I will exit close to downtown and drive surface streets. I will disengage just for a second, but it's going to work fine for that. It usually doesn't have any issues. So here we have a bunch of cars exiting, and it starts accelerating. It doesn't take the exit lane with all the other cars, so I do like that it's gotten really good at understanding which direction to go. Occasionally you might have a problem where it will accidentally move into an exit, but that's pretty rare now. It sometimes changes between model builds. It's still sensitive to it because it's just guessing basically. It's using the vision output to try to guess where this lane goes. So see here, I got a cut in, but it detected it and it's just backing off gently. It doesn't really do anything aggressive with cut-ins or anything like that. It's pretty gentle. Like it will do a firm touch on the brakes if there's a big speed difference between you and the person cutting in, but if the speed difference is minimal, like if they're going close to the same speed as you, it just kind of slowly backs back to its following distance. But this year, OpenPilot, Comma.ai is working to do model-based longitudinal. So that means that it's going to use not really rely on the radar, but more rely on the whole visual picture to gauge speed. So it's going to be looking at all these contextual things that humans do. How much traffic is there? What's the speed of traffic around you? How many cars? Is this a interstate? It's seen examples of interstates, side streets, 2-lane highways, so it can almost differentiate between those and even predict the speed for that situation. How often do you look at a speed limit sign when you go on a highway or when you go on a interstate? Occasionally in cities you're looking to make sure you're not going too fast, but usually you feel like those signs are restrictive. They're not really it's not because you have no idea what the speed is. It's more that you're going a speed that feels correct, but you just want to verify that it is correct. And that's often like in school zones, things like that. But like here it's 55. No one really goes 55 here, and most people go a little bit quicker. So you wouldn't want OpenPilot to just say 55 miles an hour. We're using map data. This is the limit. Right now we're going 55, and we're with the flow of traffic. That's fine. But if the flow of traffic is all 65 or 70, which it is very often in this area, do you want to be limited to 60 at max? No, you want to go with the traffic. That you want to use the context of the scene to judge your speed. So that's kind of the goal of the longitudinal. It's going to be model-based speed. So basically the idea is that you would just set an upper limit. So say you just set it to 70, and it's going to go 70 here, it's going to go 55 in this situation where there's traffic and everyone's moving slower. It's going to slow down if you exited and went onto a side street. It's not going to go up to 70. It's going to look at the scene and see this isn't a place to go 70 miles an hour, because I've seen with the model training millions of examples of interstates and other places where it's okay to go 70, and this isn't it. So it's going to gauge that speed of that environment. And right now I think they've even said, okay, so here OpenPilot slowed down a bit for the cars getting on that exit that was backing up. So right now, again, it's pretty basic. It's only looking at one lead car. It's not really taking in a ton of the scene. It does try to predict other cars cutting in, which would be lead 2. So it does try to guess what the next lead car will be within 2 seconds. But yeah, there it slowed down a little bit. A human wouldn't have really done that. A human would have just, known that that car was getting out of the way and kind of maintained speed. So here I'm taking an exit. I'm just going to take over just a second to guide it into this exit lane. We're actually going kind of slow, but that's okay. So I'm going to slow it down to 35, and we're going to see if it makes this turn. Oh, this is kind of a tight turn for OpenPilot. I'm speeding it back up to 40 because that's kind of the speed I go on up ahead. So now we're kind of closer with traffic. We slowed down maybe a little too much, but it handled it okay. Ah, damn. So normally I wouldn't have to disengage here, but oh, no, someone cut in. Here we go. So I don't have to disengage because I got someone to get in front of me at this stoplight. Otherwise, I would have had to stop. It doesn't detect stoplights. It doesn't detect stop signs. But if there's a lead car, it's going to stop fine. So here there's kind of like this weird kink in the intersection, but it handles that fine. And then, yeah, odds are I'll probably have to disengage a few times here because we're in traffic. And there's a lot of, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights here. And if I, am the first one there, I'm going to just hit the brakes and then hit resume once, once the light turns green. So this street they've just repainted these lines, which is kind of nice. They used to be really bad. There used to be almost no lane lines here, and OpenPilot actually did pretty well at staying in lane, except like if it was wet you couldn't see anything. It just looked like one big street, even for me. But I have the ability to remember where I've driven before and know what the lane lines should be, so even if I can't really see them as a human, I know to stay in my lane. Where with machine learning right now, there's no like recurring memory of where it's driven before, so it is at a disadvantage in that regard, that it doesn't know. Driving through here, yeah, the model has been trained probably on these streets, but do you consider that a contextual memory of it? I don't know, kind of, but it definitely will help it because it's seen these situations before. But if the situation changes dramatically, like you come through here and there's snow, the whole street's covered in snow, as a human, for us, we know we're in the same location, we know what it looked like before the snow, so we can assume what it looks like under the snow and where the lane should be. And that's how humans navigate things like snow. So maybe in the future we'll train these neural nets to see conditional changes like that, to pick up on other cues, to say, okay, there's snow, can I match this to a summer environment that looks similar, with using other things in the context besides the lane lines, since the lane lines are gone. All right, so there, see, a car pulled off and it was really slow to kind of resume, which I've seen it's very similar in autopilot, that when a car cuts out from in front of you, you kind of want to just hit the gas and go. But the acceleration with OpenPilot is pretty good. It resumes pretty quickly. So I'm going to start winding this down because we're close to the end of the commute. I don't know how many disengagements I did. I'll review the tape and we'll keep account of that and actually how much time I drove, which I will disengage here soon because I'm going on to streets where intersections and stuff where I'm just going to have to take over. So here I'm going to nudge the car into the exit lane, and it'll take the exit, but we're on a surface street. This is just a it's traditional exit design, so I have to go this way. I'm actually going to hit the gas to disengage, and then now I'm driving manually. So I can set this light, This intersection's not that great for OpenPilot. You know, I could hit resume. If there's no one around me, I can hit resume and see how it'll do. But you know, this isn't a great intersection for it to drive. So we'll see. So I'm going to try to use OpenPilot as much as I can. I'm going to stop just before my work and end the video there. Alright, so let's hit resume. Let's see what it does here. It's turning. It's going straight. It kind of sees that it needs to turn, but it's going kind of into traffic. So I'm going to help it right there just a little bit. So it picked the lane. So I need to just nudge it. Since we're below 35 miles an hour and it doesn't see red lights, it won't do the lane change, and I disengage. So we won't even count that as an engagement. So here, I'm just turning. And yeah, if I want, I can hit resume and I can let OpenPilot drive here. But usually I drive this manually. It's, you know, surface streets with red lights. It works, but since it can't see traffic signals, it can't stop. So often you're disengaging and re-engaging. But if you notice, the switching cost of the switching with OpenPilot is really intuitive. Once you get used to it, it's very easy. Like here, I'm about to disengage and I just hit the brake. And it's disengaging because I'm taking a really tight turn here that it wouldn't take. So yeah. And basically, we're here. So this is where I'm going to end the video. Hope you guys like that. I hope this gave you a better example of what OpenPilot's like. As you saw, not much interaction from me. So I will cut to me back home, and we'll talk about some of the data and exactly what the engage-disengage ratio was, and what percentage of the drive was driven by OpenPilot versus me. So alright, I'll see you guys later. Okay, I'm back home and I'm analyzing the CAN data from the drive. So I've got two things here. I've got the steering torque from the driver. So these areas where there's not much activity, that's where OpenPilot is in control, and these large spikes, that is where I overrode the steering. So along with that, I'm also looking at the cruise active. This is actually when OpenPilot's active, and I can see exactly down to the second when it was engaged, when it was disengaged, and that, along with the driver torque on the wheel, I can check the timing on this graph and see exactly how long I was in control and how long OpenPilot was in control of the vehicle. So if those two things, I can give you guys an accurate breakdown. So here it is. Basically, the entire trip was 27 minutes and 37 seconds. The engaged time was exactly 25 minutes. The disengaged time was 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Now this is including about 1 minute and 7 seconds prior to the video starting, where I left my house and I drove that manually. The time added up from all the steering overrides I did was 17 seconds of me steering while OpenPilot was engaged. And there were 3 disengagements of OpenPilot completely. Number of steering corrections was 6. Those were 2 to 3 seconds apiece. OpenPilot controlled the car for 89.5%, so we almost got to 90%. And this is again on 0.7.3. And so let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you want me to do more videos like this. And that's it for this one. So I'll see you guys next time.